Hello, welcome to the lecture notes that go with Unit 1, Homework 1, which are percents. So as we go through these, start, stop the video. My name is Ann Starling here with Bright Point Community College, so we can go ahead and get started. So as you look at the notes, you would start to brainstorm, well, what do I know about a percent when I see the word? And something that comes to mind, especially when we're looking at translating words into math, is that we have this word per and cent. So per means division and cent means 100. So this is per 100. So when I see something that says 23%, when I actually use it in a math or in an equation, I know that it's 23 out of 100 or 0.23. So translating those percents. All right. So then we can also use this for various problems. So my first example is we have a student that scored 24 out of 32 questions correct on an exam. What's their grade? So if I just said 24 out of 32, that's not a common number that you would really know, but we're used to grades being in a percent. So think again as it's a fraction out of 100. So essentially we're taking that 24 out of 32 and trying to make it into something out of 100. Now we're not going to solve it this way. We're going to do it a little simpler, but that's where we're headed, something out of 100. So if I take 24 out of 32, I'm going to do what's called reducing. I'm going to make this 8 times 3 and 8 times 4 and get rid of those. Well, 3/4, we kind of commonly know that that's 75 or 75%. And if you're not sure, type it in real quick in your calculator. So now it makes sense to us that we actually got 75% on the exam. That equates to a grade. We know what we're talking about now. All right. So in that case, say you took multiple exams and one you got a 24 out of 30, one was a 25 out of 32, one was an 80%. What we could do with these percents is we could use them to compare all of those different items. So percents are very important in comparisons. So if you've watched some of those weight loss shows, there's several on TV. One that used to be on that was pretty popular was Biggest Loser. And what they always did was Biggest Loser did it by your winning percentage lost, not pounds lost. So if you would take somebody that already weighed 400 pounds and they got down to 200 pounds, well, 200 out of 400 is a half, which is 50% of their body weight. So that's still a really great loss. But if you started with someone that's only 300 pounds, they can't really lose 200 pounds. They might instead lose 160, which still looks great. And you're thinking, oh, well, they didn't lose as much. But in reality, they actually won, because if I take a calculator out and do the 160 divided by 300, second, then I end up with 53%. So it's a way a lot of those shows worked with the fact that some people came in heavier, lighter, and so forth. Another one would be if you had something like you were trying to figure out the pass rate of a professor. Well, if I told you last semester 10 students passed my class, and another professor said, well, I had 100 students pass my class. Well, the next question would be, okay, out of how many? So if this is 10 out of 10, that's 100% pass rate. If this is 100 out of 200, that's only a 50% pass rate, and you can take from that what you want. So again, it helps us compare these different things. So another place where this might be useful is if you've got sports or whatnot. It's time to pick someone, for example, to do the extra kick in a Super Bowl, and they've all kicked different amounts of times. So should Steve do it? He's made 14 out of 19 of his last kicks. Or should Jason do it? He's made 9 out of 12 of his kicks. So go ahead and pause the video and try this one out and see what you would think. So coming back, Steve made 14 out of 19 and Jason made 9 out of 12. So if we take 14 divided by 19, put it in our calculator, we get 0.7368 or approximately 73.7%. That's not bad. He's making a good chunk. 9 out of 12 is 0.75, which is 75%. So mathematically, you would want to pick Jason because he has a slightly higher rate. Now, if we take the math aside, you might want to pick Steve because he has more experiences. You know, he's kicked 19, Jason's only kicked 12, but math-wise, you would pick Jason. For this table, try it out and then check out the key and see how you did. If not, we do want to make sure that we know how to go from percent to decimal to fraction notation. All right, down here, we are getting into translating. So if you had a question that said, what is 60% of 22? What does what mean? What is going to be your variable? It's what you're looking for. What? Usually it would be X, it's something unknown. You pick your letter though, it doesn't really matter. Now the is always means equals. And then when we have that percent, remember 60% is 60 out of 100. So I'm going to put it as 60 out of 100 in the math, or it would go haywire pretty fast. Of is a multiplication. And then you have 22. And now you could type that in. 60 divided by 100 times 22 is 13.2. And another way to look at these problems, I'm looking for 60% of 22. So I'm looking for a number that's smaller than 22. So when we think, does it make sense? That's how we know. If you had forgotten to do the 60 out of 100 and you did 60 times 22, you come up with 1,320. You know, think of a 60% off sale. If it's 60% of 22 and I charge you $1,300, that's a quick, oh, maybe that wasn't right. So always kind of think, what kind of number am I looking for here? So if I want what percent of 20 is 1.93, if I kind of think of that, that's less than 2. So 2 out of 20 is a pretty small percentage. So I'm looking for something pretty small. But let's go ahead and translate it according to our box up here. And then up here, it's always use the decimal form of a percent. So what percent? Okay, so this whole thing is my X. So we're going to table that for a moment, come back to that. Of 20 is 1.93. So we're going to divide that. So we end up with X is 0.0965. But remember, in the equation, we're going to use the decimal form. But when we're asked for percent, we're going to translate that back and give it as a percent as 9.65. And then you can try the next two and look at it in terms of your answer key. And then we've also got an algebra warm-up down here where you can again try it, look at the answer key, kind of see where your skills are in terms of that. So for the next piece, we are working with word problems with percents. So keep in mind what we were doing in terms of the translating, and we're going to do that exactly. We're going to think, what is it asking for? What am I looking for? What's happening here? And go back to those problem solving techniques as well. So suppose 27%, I'm going to put it in decimal form, of 4126 students at Brightpoint work full-time. How many work full-time? So this piece is my X. It's the number of students that work full-time at Brightpoint. So suppose 27%, I've got my 4126, I multiply those together. So I get 1114.02. Well, I'm just looking for number of students. So I'm going to go ahead and say 1,114 students work full-time at Brightpoint. And you may want to pause here too and go ahead and try these before I get into them. Okay, so for this example 5, before you're giving let's look at what we need here. You are required to have the total monthly payment be no more than 28%. So let's make it 28% of your gross monthly income. So it can be 28% of your gross monthly income. All I'm doing is writing what they've told me. And that could be your monthly payment. So let's see what they gave us next. Okay, if the monthly payment can be $1,600, what was the family's income? So now we can put all that together. So I'm going to make this X because we don't know it. So it's 0.28X is equal to 1,600. Then we divide it. And we end up with 5,714 and 29 cents for their monthly income. And then hopefully you've tried number 6 as well. If not, I would really suggest pausing and trying it. So this one, we're having a sale and we're offering 40% off some items. We have been wanting a Roomba iRobot to clean for us. It's priced at $350. Okay, but they're offering 40% off. So what's the sales price? And then what would the total be with your tax? So we know that when we get a price, we then ring it up and it's a little more. So there's 2 pieces to this. There's one where what's the actual sales price? So the sales price is you're getting 40% off the $350. So that's your discount, not your actual price, your discount. So if I do 40% of $350, it's $140. So the actual price is $350 minus $140, or $210. Now, another way you could do that is if you don't want to do the 2 steps, if you're getting 40% off, then you're paying 60%. So you could do 60% of the price to also get the 210. But if that doesn't work, keep it as the 2-step. Okay, so then what we're going to do next is add that nice sales tax. So sales tax is 6%. So it's going to be 6% of the 210 is your tax, and then add it to that 210 price. So it's going to be sales tax plus price. Okay. So that turns into $1,260 plus the 210 equals 2,260. And you're good to go. All right. And then the last one for this one, bookstore marks up your books 25% from what they paid. All right. So you paid $75. They marked up the price 25%. What did they pay? So when you're working on this problem, the bookstore had to have paid less than 75 or they don't make money. So let's go for that part first. But let's also think about how this is worded. Whatever the original price is, they then add 25% of that price. And that's what you pay. So you don't just want to do 25% times 75 because that's what you paid. That's not what they marked it up. So since we want to know the original price, that's X, 0.25X equals what you paid, which was 75. So I always recommend summarizing, writing out what the actual math behind this is, and then having it make sense. So that ends up being 1.25X equals 75. And when you divide, we find that the bookstore paid $60. And we should be able to check our work. 60 plus 0.25 of 60 is 60 plus 15, which is 75, and we are good. All right, if there's any you still have questions about, make sure to check the answer key. And then for the last page, the weighted average, there is a separate video for that. And then you will want to get going on your Unit 1, Homework 1. Have a wonderful day.